Captain James Vega stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the massive alien armada approach through the viewport. The Zephyrian Empire had brought everything they had, over 2,000 ships stretching across the dark canvas of space like a plague of metal locusts. Behind him, his communications officer, Lieutenant Rodriguez, called out the grim numbers. "Sir, we're detecting Zephyrian dreadnoughts, battlecruisers, and fighter swarms. They outnumber us 50 to 1. James nodded grimly. Proxima Base was humanity's last stronghold in this sector. For 3 years, the Galactic Coalition had been systematically destroying human colonies, claiming that humans were too unpredictable and violent to exist alongside civilized species. The Zephyrians, with their honor-based culture, led the charge. The Kythera contributed their advanced shield technology, while the Nexus provided their quantum weapons. "Chief Engineer Williams, what's our status?" James asked. Williams, a gruff veteran with oil-stained hands, looked up from his console. "The reactor's running hot, Captain. We've got maybe 6 hours before critical overload. The weapon systems are barely holding together after the last engagement." Around Proxima Base, the remaining human fleet gathered. 43 ships of various classes, all that remained of humanity's once mighty space navy. Captain Torres of the destroyer Phoenix reported in first, followed by Commander Jackson of the heavy cruiser Titan's Wrath. One by one, every human ship confirmed the same thing: they were ready to fight to the end. The Zephyrian flagship, a massive vessel called the Honor's Edge, transmitted a message. Admiral Krex's reptilian face appeared on the screen, his golden scales gleaming under the bridge lights. "Humans of Proxima Base," Krex spoke in his translated voice, "this is your final opportunity. Surrender now and accept exile to the Outer Rim. Continue to resist and face complete annihilation." James looked around his bridge crew. These weren't soldiers anymore, they were survivors. Engineer Williams had lost his family on Mars. Rodriguez had watched his homeworld burn. They all had reasons to hate, but more importantly, they had reasons to fight. "Admiral Krex," James replied, "I have a message for you and your coalition friends. Humanity doesn't surrender. We don't kneel. And we sure as hell don't go quietly." Into the night, the alien admiral's eyes narrowed. "Then you choose extinction." "No," James said, a cold smile spreading across his face. "We choose war." The first enemy missiles launched like streams of deadly light across the void. But James had a plan, something the aliens wouldn't expect because it went against every rule of civilized warfare. He was going to show them what humans did when they were pushed too far. 15 years had passed since the destruction of Proxima Base. The galaxy celebrated its victory over the violent human species. History books recorded the end of humanity with relief, claiming the universe was now safer without their chaotic influence. But Ambassador Zelix of the Kythera Empire was starting to suspect that reports of humanity's extinction were greatly exaggerated. Standing in his crystalline office aboard the orbital station above New Kythera, Zelix studied the troubling reports, scattered across his desk. In the past 6 months, 17 coalition cargo vessels had vanished without a trace. Mining operations on former human worlds were plagued by equipment failures that seemed impossible. Communication relays throughout the outer sectors kept mysteriously malfunctioning. His aide, a young Kythera named Thys, floated into the room using their species' natural levitation abilities. "Ambassador, we've received another report from the Zephyrian territories. 3 of their patrol ships disappeared near the asteroid belt where Earth's moon used to orbit." Zelix's crystalline skin shifted to a troubled blue hue. "Show me the search patterns." The holographic display revealed something chilling. Every disappearance occurred near former human space, in regions that should have been empty vacuum. The coalition had been thorough in their victory. Every human settlement destroyed, every ship accounted for, every survivor tracked down and dealt with. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Krex faced his own mysteries. The same Krex who had demanded humanity's surrender now found himself explaining to the Zephyrian High Command why their shipping routes were becoming increasingly dangerous. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "another supply convoy has been attacked. The ships were found intact, but the crews were missing. There's something else. The cargo holds contained recordings." "What kind of recordings?" "Human voices, sir. Children singing lullabies. Families saying goodbye. The last messages from Proxima Base before it fell." Krex's scales darkened with unease. Psychological warfare wasn't supposed to be possible from an extinct species. Deep in the asteroid belt that once surrounded Earth, Chief Engineer Marcus Kane worked by the light of a small fusion torch. Kane had been aboard a mining vessel when Proxima Base fell. His ship had been destroyed, but he and 12 others had escaped in a cargo pod. For 15 years, they had been building. The base was invisible to most scanners, constructed inside. A hollowed-out asteroid and powered by scavenged fusion cells. They called it Haven Station, though it was more like a tomb filled with the living dead. Everyone here had lost everything. Families, homes, entire worlds. "Kane," called out his second-in-command, former Navy Lieutenant Patricia Brooks. "The listening post is picking up Coalition communications. They know something's wrong." Kane smiled grimly. "Good. Fear makes them sloppy." Brooks pulled up a star chart covered in red markers. "We've got teams operating in 17 sectors now. Captain Morrison's group hit another Kithara mining operation. Yesterday, Dr. Harrison's team successfully infiltrated a Nexus research station. And the weapons program? Ahead of schedule. We're not building ships, we're building nightmares." Kane looked out through the small viewport at the stars that once belonged to humanity. The aliens thought they had won by destroying human civilization. They didn't understand that they had simply freed humanity from the burden of being civilized. 25 years after the last human officially died, the galaxy was falling apart. The great coalition that had united to destroy humanity was now fragmenting under the weight of fear and suspicion. In the halls of the Galactic Council, former allies pointed weapons at each other, while shadows moved between the stars. Director Vane of the Nexus Collective stood before the emergency assembly, his mechanical augmentations gleaming under the chamber's lights. As a cyborg species, the Nexus prided themselves on logic and efficiency, but even they couldn't explain what was happening to their territory. "Fellow council members," Vane announced, his voice echoing through the massive chamber, "our analysis confirms what we've all suspected. The attacks on our shipping, the sabotage of our infrastructure, the psychological operations against our populations, they all bear the signature of human tactical doctrine." A ripple of unease passed through the assembled alien representatives. Ambassador Zilix's crystalline form flickered nervously. Admiral Krex's scales had turned a deep, angry red. "Impossible," declared High Regent Morpheus of the Skrill Empire, his tentacles writhing in agitation. "We eliminated every human settlement. Our records are precise." "Then explain this," Vane said, as holographic displays activated throughout the chamber. The images showed the impossible, human ships attacking coalition vessels. But these weren't the sleek military craft from the old war. These vessels looked like mechanical nightmares, ships built from the corpses of destroyed fleets, powered by fusion reactors that glowed like angry stars, armed with weapons that defied conventional physics. Captain Diana Stone piloted her ship, the Wraith Runner, through the debris field of a recent battle. Her vessel was a masterpiece of human ingenuity and alien technology. A destroyer-class hull rebuilt with Kithara shield generators, Nexus quantum computers, and Zephyrian weapons systems, all of it scavenged, stolen, or torn from the wreckage. "Of coalition forces, stone to all revenant ships," she transmitted on an encrypted channel. The Nexus research convoy is exactly where our intelligence said it would be. Remember the mission parameters. We're not here to destroy. We're here to terrify. Around her, 6 more ships decloaked from stealth systems that shouldn't have existed. The Wraith Runner led the formation, followed by the Banshee's Cry, the Soul Reaper, and 4 other vessels with names that would give alien children nightmares. The Nexus convoy consisted of 3 research vessels and 2 escort frigates. They never saw the human ships until it was too late. The attack lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it was over, the research ships were intact but empty. Their crews had vanished, leaving behind only recordings of human voices speaking in languages the universe thought were dead. Back at the Galactic Council, emergency sessions were called daily. The Coalition was discovering that hunting ghosts was infinitely more difficult than fighting a conventional war. "We need to negotiate," Ambassador Zelix suggested during a private meeting. "If humans still exist, perhaps we can reach an accommodation." Admiral Krex slammed his clawed fist on the table. "Negotiate with terrorists and pirates? Would you prefer eternal war with an enemy you can't find?" Zelix countered. In the hidden depths of space, the human remnant had been listening to every word. Their network of stolen communication systems gave them access to Coalition intelligence. They knew exactly how much fear they had created. The meeting took place in neutral space, far from any star system. The Coalition had finally accepted what they refused to believe for decades. Humanity was not extinct. Now they wanted to talk. But the beings who came to negotiate were no longer the same species that had once built cities and dreamed of peaceful exploration. The human ship emerged from hyperspace like a bad dream made manifest. The Vengeful Spirit was a kilometer-long vessel built from the wreckage of 100 Coalition ships. Its hull was black as the void between stars, covered in scars that told the story of 30 years of guerrilla warfare. Captain Elena Cross stood on the bridge, her face bearing the marks of 3 decades spent living in the darkness between worlds. Behind her, the bridge crew worked with the quiet efficiency of people who had known only war. They were the children and grandchildren of the original survivors, raised in hidden bases and taught that the galaxy owed them a debt of blood. "Captain," reported her tactical officer, Commander Jason Blake, "Coalition ships are holding position. 3 vessels, Githara, Nexus, and Zephyrian." "Any surprises?" Elena asked. "None that our sensors can detect. They're keeping their distance and broadcasting on diplomatic frequencies." Eleanor smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Let's go meet our old friends." The diplomatic station was small and sterile, built specifically for this encounter. Elena walked through its corridors, accompanied by 2 of her senior officers, Commander Blake and Chief Scientist Rachel Torres. All 3 wore the black uniforms of the human remnant, marked with symbols that represented dead worlds and lost colonies. The Coalition representatives were already waiting. Ambassador Zelix's crystalline form had taken on a nervous purple. "You!" Admiral Krex looked older, his scales dulled by decades of fighting an enemy he couldn't catch. Director Vane's mechanical parts seemed to click more loudly in the tension-filled silence. "Captain Cross," Ambassador Zelix began carefully, "thank you for agreeing to this meeting. We hope we can find a peaceful resolution to our current difficulties." Elena took her seat across from them, her dark eyes studying each representative with the intensity of a predator. "Difficulties? Is that what you call 30 years of attempted genocide?" "The war is over," Admiral Krex said firmly. "Both sides have suffered losses. Perhaps it's time to move forward." "The war is over?" Elena laughed, and the sound made all 3 aliens uncomfortable. "Admiral, the war hasn't even begun." She gestured to Commander Blake, who activated a holographic display. The image showed a map of the galaxy, covered in red dots that marked human operations. You see, while you've been playing politics and dividing up our former territory, we've been busy. We have operatives in every major coalition world. We've infiltrated your governments, your militaries, your corporations. We know everything about you. Director Vane's mechanical voice was carefully modulated. What do you want? What do we want? Elena stood up, her voice growing cold. We want our worlds back. We want reparations for every human life you took. We want formal recognition of human sovereignty, and we want the leaders responsible for the genocide to face justice. Impossible, Admiral Krex growled. The coalition will never agree to those terms. Then the coalition will continue to bleed, Eleanor replied. Every day, every hour, until you understand that we are no longer asking, we are demanding. The negotiations continued for hours, but no agreement was reached. The coalition representatives, left with a clear understanding, humanity had evolved beyond their ability to control or contain. As the vengeful spirit prepared to return to the shadows, Elena received a coded transmission from across the galaxy. The message was simple but significant. All cells report ready. Operation Resurrection can begin on your command. 5 years had passed since the failed negotiations, and the galaxy was no longer recognizable. The mighty coalition that had once united to destroy humanity was now a collection of terrified worlds, hiding behind increasingly desperate defenses. The humans had kept their promise. They had made the galaxy bleed. Fleet Admiral Victoria Hart stood in the command center of the New Terror, humanity's first mobile city ship in 35 years. Built in the hidden shipyards of the Outer Rim, using resources stolen from 100 coalition worlds, it was a symbol of humanity's return to power. Around her, hundreds of technicians monitored operations across dozens of star systems. Admiral, reported Intelligence Director Morgan Chase, the Cathara hegemony has formally withdrawn from the Coalition Defense Pact. That leaves only the Nexus Collective and the Zephyrian Empire still officially at war with us. Victoria nodded as she studied the strategic display. Red zones marked areas under human control, yellow indicated contested space, and the shrinking blue regions showed coalition territory. The change was remarkable. In just 5 years, humanity had gone from ghosts in the void to a major galactic power. What about the reparation shipments? Arriving on schedule, Chase replied. The Thraxi Republic delivered another cargo of rare metals yesterday. The Vultan Trade Union sent medical supplies and industrial equipment. Word is spreading that cooperation with humanity is more profitable than resistance. Victoria smiled. Fear was an excellent negotiator. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Krex received the reports he had been dreading. The Zephyrian Empire's outer colonies were requesting permission to negotiate separate peace agreements with the humans. His own officers were questioning the wisdom of continuing a war that seemed impossible to win. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. It's addressed to you personally." The holographic image of Admiral Victoria Hart appeared before him. She was younger than Krex had expected, but her eyes held the weight of decades of war. "Admiral Krex," Victoria began, "I believe you know why I'm contacting you. Your empire is dying. Your allies have abandoned you. Your people are demanding peace. You have one choice remaining." Krex's scales darkened. "I will not surrender to terrorists." "Surrender?" Victoria laughed. "Admiral, we're not asking for your surrender. We're offering you the chance to survive." She gestured off-screen, and the display showed images of human fleets moving towards Zephyrian space. "In 72 hours, we will begin the final offensive. Every Zephyrian military installation, every government facility, every symbol of your empire's power will be eliminated. but we'll leave your civilian populations untouched. And in return? In return, you and your fellow war criminals will stand trial for genocide, accept responsibility for what you did to us, and your people can begin building a new future. The transmission ended, leaving Krex alone with his thoughts. Through his viewport, he could see the stars that had once belonged to the Zephyrian Empire. Soon, they would belong to humanity. The trial of the Coalition war criminals was broadcast across the galaxy. Admiral Krex, Director Vane, and dozens of other leaders stood before a human tribunal. The charges were read in the languages of their victims: crimes against sentient life, attempted genocide, and violation of the basic rights of intelligent species. When the verdicts were announced, the galaxy watched in silence. Some called it justice, others called it revenge. But everyone understood the message. Humanity had returned, and they would never again allow themselves to be pushed to the edge of extinction. In her private quarters aboard the New Terror, Admiral Victoria Hart looked out at the stars and thought about Captain James Vega, who had died defending Proxima Base 35 years ago. He had promised the galaxy that humanity would never surrender. He had been right. They had done something far more dangerous. They had evolved. The war was finally over. Humanity had won not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through something their enemies had never understood: the absolute refusal to give up. The galaxy would remember this lesson for generations to come. After the war, no one dared speak of humans again, except in whispers and with respect.